Amazing week of, again, new all-time highs for all the indices, but a Friday that turned green to red, and now everyone's afraid that maybe the rally is over. We're going to summarize the week. We're going to talk about all the news that came out this week, from the big companies to the small companies. We're going to talk about a very small company that got a very bad phase 3 results for their drug, and the stock plummeted 82%. And of course, we're going to get ready for the week ahead. Are you ready for it? Let's go. So hello, and welcome to our channel. I'm Micha Stocks, and on this channel, Stock Talk with Micha Stocks, we summarize the week in the stock market to better understand what's going on in the world of investment. And a quick reminder, everything and anything that you see on this channel is not financial advice. It's only for education and entertainment purposes only. Let's go to the second camera, and by that, share our screen. This is our channel, 2.87K subscribers, where we have 64 videos every week. On the dot, we do the same weekly summary, and let's directly dive in. Here we go. How do you know when you might be at the peak of a rally? When all the major outlets start talking about the bull market. Barron's this weekend publishes this front page saying, bet on the bull. Well, usually when they come out with these kinds of front pages, it's bet on the bear and not bet on the bull, but we'll see if Barron's are right or wrong. This is how the major averages ended the week. We can see that the only average on the green was the Russell, the IWM. S&P down 0.2%, the Dow Jones down 0.9%, and the NASDAQ down 1.5%. Most of the losses and gains came on Friday, especially for the NASDAQ, after the semiconductors. Most of them, if not all of them, had an early green day. They started the Friday on the green side and then turned around with the peak of that. NVIDIA, we're going to see her in a second. We're going to see the stock, and I'll explain what happened to NVIDIA. When we look at the indices themselves, utilities, real estate on the green side versus consumer discretionary, communication and technology on the red side. This brings us to the crypto market, boiling up 39 days to the halving, to the Bitcoin halving, a major event that in history, 365 days later, Bitcoin skyrocketed. Will it happen this time as well with all the new ETFs? We'll see that later when we'll talk about the inflows, but Bitcoin up 1.1%. Ethereum is up 9.2%. Magnificent Seven. Let's talk about two of these stocks. One of them is Tesla, down 13%. We're going to see the headline, but I'll give you a quick hint right now. Berlin factory, an arson attack disables electricity, and the factory is not spitting out cars for 13 days. That will, of course, reduce the output, reduce revenue, reduce profit, etc. That's why Tesla is down 13.4%. And NVIDIA. NVIDIA started the week, and not like another week for NVIDIA, new highs, almost reaching $1,000 per share. But then comes Friday. We see a turn after about an hour or an hour and a half in trading, and the stock plummets 11%, green to red. This usually, from a technical perspective, is not a good sign, but we will need to see continuation Monday and Tuesday. If we will see continuation Monday and Tuesday to the downside, it means that NVIDIA might be starting a technical correction. Remember, nothing from a fundamental perspective happened on Friday, just like nothing happened on Thursday, which is this line, just like nothing happened on Wednesday, which is this line. So from a fundamental perspective, NVIDIA is still cheap on a next 12 months basis from a PE perspective. But technical corrections are something that are very common. They are good because they provide new entry points for people that feel that they missed this current rally. This is NVIDIA, but again, Monday, Tuesday, if the stock keeps going up, then, it was a day correction and the dip buyers came in. We will need to see. Heat map looks like this. You can see Magnificent Seven on the red side. Rest try to be green, but that didn't last with the whole weighting of the S&P 500. And these are the major ETFs being traded. You can see that mid caps are currently at extreme overbought. This came from Bespoke, their website. So mid caps are extreme overbought. Most of the market currently is overbought. A correction would be welcome. I would expect a correction, but I'm expecting a correction for 2 weeks now, so nothing has changed from that perspective. It doesn't mean that I'm short on the market or anything like that. I'm just looking for better entry points than the ones that currently exist. And this, as usual, brings us directly to the summary of the news. The news, especially in earnings season, starts with this table that shows the earnings season of the week that passed. What did we learn this week from the companies that reported? One, we learned that some companies are really outperforming. Example, CrowdStrike. On the flip side, we saw companies that needed to lower their guidance. That was Victoria's Secrets. Those were Marvell, MongoDB, Broadcom, and others. We did see retail. Some of the retailers like Gap and others, great results. But on the other side, we saw Foot Locker, which went down 30% on disappointing results and lowering their guidance. So what do we learn from that? As usual, we learned that every company should be analyzed as itself because from a sector perspective, we do not see any commonality between the companies. Now, let's start with the news. Lisa Abramovich from Bloomberg keeps updating us that analysts are pushing back against the idea, are we in a bubble or not? For my Hebrew channel, I did an analysis on are we in a bubble or not. The analysis used a lot of known investors and known strategists. And the current understanding and the current analysis, especially when you compare it to Cisco in the dot-com bubble, is that NVIDIA, it might be, the king of or the queen of the bubble, is not currently in a bubble. Cisco was trading at a higher multiple. They ran a lot more than NVIDIA did. So the current data does not support a bubble. This does not mean that a correction is not welcome, but just so you know, that's on the bubble perspective. Apple got hit by $1.95 billion in an EU antitrust. This, of course, will not be paid tomorrow. They will appeal. But Spotify was the one that started this whole investigation by saying that if Spotify needs to pay 30% royalty for Apple selling music, while Apple has Apple Music selling music and doesn't pay, that automatically limits competition because Spotify is by default losing 30%. And the EU, at least, feels that Spotify, which is originated in Netherlands, if I'm not mistaken, is correct. Also, Apple tumbled 24% in their China sales from the beginning of the year, with Huawei and other Chinese competitors eating or biting into the apple. Like that? Excellent. Citi CEO Jane Fraser updates everyone that the first quarter results might be slightly better than expected. Also, she updated everyone that end of this month, end of March, which is the end of the quarter, they're going to end their reorganization. Something around 20,000 people are going to at least change their role or exit Citi in a huge overhaul that she's trying to take Citi back on tracks. And Goldman Sachs across the street says to their investors, don't invest in China. Now, there might be great trades on China stocks, but investment for a long term in a company that you have no idea what the government would do, that you know that the US government is going against, is usually putting your savings and lifelong savings at risk. The BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. All these companies are trying to create their own payment system. The reason for that, if you all remember, when Russia invaded Ukraine, the West, the NATO, and others disconnected Russia from the SWIFT payment system, which means that Russia cannot operate any payments outside of Russia. All the other companies, all the other dictatorships are now afraid of that problem. Again, excluding India for that perspective, are afraid that the same thing would happen to them. So they're trying to create something on the blockchain and using crypto. I think I've seen this headline almost every few months. Same headline, nothing happened. But it's a nice headline to present. And from a Google perspective, Sergey Brin, one of the founders, is working diligently in Google to try to get it back on track as well. And the reason for that is because he sees the trajectory of AI being so exciting. He's also saying that the launch of Gemini, which was barred previously, was definitely messed up. And this is Jensen Huang, which is having a conference a week from now in San Jose, where I will attend in order to provide everyone, quick updates on what is going on there. So that's on the NVIDIA front, the biggest AI conference in the world. It's coming back to be face-to-face. Macy's getting a better buyout bid. So there is a group that wants to buy Macy's for the real estate, not even for their business. They updated by $1 billion their offer, and the stock, of course, gained 12%, which is the equivalent to what they offered. Klarna is the equivalent to a firm, but buy now, pay later, is presented last week a paper that says that they eliminated 700 jobs in their customer service using OpenAI's advanced capabilities for businesses, of course, which will result in $40 million in cost savings across 2024. Another use case showing that AI is here and is providing value to companies. JetBlue and Spirit Airlines were supposed to merge, but the court blocked it, and they're stepping away from their merger agreement, which means that JBLU and SAVE will keep trading separate stocks and will not merge. Old Twitter CEO, CFO, Chief Legal, and General Counsel grouped together to try to get their compensation back. Their severance, actually. They were fired a few hours before they were able to get their severance and locked out of their computers, and now they're suing Elon Musk for $130 million in severance for 4 people. That sounds like a very hefty severance pay. Gold this week created a new all-time highs. From a technical perspective, technicians are seeing a cup and handle, which means that gold might reach around $2,500 per ounce. And this also raises a very interesting question, because you'll see in a few pictures from now that Bitcoin also sees huge inflows. So gold sees huge inflows. Bitcoin sees huge inflows. We heard this week that more than $6 trillion are still in money market funds. They're seeing huge inflows. And the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ are also all-time high. Where's all this money coming from? Very good question. No one really knows. New York Community Bank is, at least they know where their money is coming from. $1 billion was raised from the firm from Steve Mnuchin, you remember, from Trump administration, in order for them to survive. He believes that he's not going to lose all his money and they're going to stay in business, and that's why he did this investment. Palantir was awarded $178 million of contract from the Army, U.S. Army, to build 10 Titan prototypes. These are AI-based command centers that helps the U.S. Army troops in better line of sight beyond the horizon using AI and multi-channel analytics. If you didn't understand anything I said right now, that's fine. It's something that the Army might be better using. That's the short summary of it, mainly for shooters. And Tesla did not have a great week, or actually 2 weeks, or actually year-to-date, not good year-to-date. Giga Berlin, their huge Berlin factory, had an arson attack, and electricity is down, will be down for around 14 days. And that the result of that will be less production for their cars. Washington pushes both their allies and companies like AMD and others not to provide China with chips. It's not even a trade war, it's an IP war between China and the US. And Novo Nordisk, their shares jumped this, I think it was Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it was Thursday, by 7% after they presented promising weight loss trial results, comparing it to Mounjaro for Eli Lilly. GLP-1, the whole weight loss injection, is the new AI, at least in the medical space. And Novo Nordisk is currently the leader in that. Rivian is setting their plan to reduce cost two things that stood out. One, they're stopping their new factory, building the new factory in Illinois. Right now, they're going to stay in the current factory. And two, they're going to launch a new platform for their cars, the RT2. The new cars will have the new platform by 2026. But in the meantime, this will put them on a path to save $2.2 billion. Netflix taking another stab at live sports and now bringing Jake Paul, a content creator, and Mike Tyson to fight in a boxing match. I assume that Jake Paul would need some kind of medical procedure after, but who knows, maybe Mike Tyson would. That's going to be live on Netflix, if I'm not mistaken, July 20. Stay tuned. And the government is planning to invest $3.5 billion in Intel in order to produce semiconductors for military and intelligence purposes. U.S. Understood that having that information in Taiwan when China might be able to attack Taiwan is not the right thing to do, and Intel might be the beneficiary for that. Microsoft is planning an event March 21st to talk about Copilot, their advanced AI, or the way they wrapped ChatGPT into their products, how to make Windows better, Office better, and the other suite products better. Very interesting if you're using Microsoft, like everyone is using Microsoft products. But we also saw some bad headlines this week of a Microsoft engineer that warns that the company AI tools create violent sexual images and ignore copyrights. Probably is correct. That might be one of the, let's call it, the bad things that might happen from the advanced AI, the generative AI. The question is how the company is going to deal with that, and not the fact that it might happen. Yes, it might happen, but that's why they're working on safety. Now, is Microsoft doing the best they can? I have no idea. I'm just sharing with you the information. This did not impact Microsoft stock. On Friday, we had a jobs report. We saw more jobs being created, but also a higher unemployment rate. If you're asking yourself, how can that be? It just means that the market, as we saw, the GDP and companies are expanding. But we also saw lower salary, lower hourly rates, which was optimistic for the market. Last but not last, we have another item after that. Inflows for Bitcoin ETFs. Look at the inflows from the minute they were launched. These are inflows by billions of dollars. These are net inflows. Okay? More and more money is piling into the Bitcoin ETFs. Do they know something that we don't know? That's a very interesting question. What we do know is that money is flowing in. That's a fact. And last but not least, the sad story of Amylyx Pharmaceuticals, a company that tried to have a drug to try to reduce ALS and the impacts. They, on Friday, updated, of course, everyone they needed, that the drug did not pass phase 3, and they need to stop selling the drug and take everything off the shelves. That impacted by 82% the price of the share, and that also is a good educational piece to tell you that when you're investing in small companies, you are risking losing most of your money. So be smart and diligent about that. And by that, we are going into next week. This is how next week is gonna look like. We're gonna see reports from Oracle, Asana. We're gonna hear from Kohl's and ADM after all the mess, the financial mess ADM had. We're gonna hear from UiPath. We're gonna hear from Zim. We're going to have from Dollar Tree and Dollar General, Dick's, Adobe. So we're going to have very interesting companies, not the big ones except Adobe, which is relatively big, but we're going to hear more and more companies from a tech side, from retail, and also from other aspects. But Tuesday would be the most interesting and important day of the week. CPI, 8:30 a.m. Eastern. We're going to see how the inflation is acting month over month and year over year. Hopefully, it will not spook the market and create a correction. Actually, I hope it will create a correction, but not from that perspective. And now this brings us, as usual, to the S&P 500. The ETF tracks it is the SPY. As you can see, we are in an uptrend channel. We have just broken out of this channel, and right now we are on the upper area of the channel. From a technical perspective, it means that we might see a correction. From a value perspective, year to date, the S&P is up 7.3%, just shy of the average of 10%. And we still have 9 months ahead of us in the year. Any correction should be, at least from my perspective and from my investment philosophy, should be a buyable correction. The market is healthy. GDP is expanding. I can't give you financial advice. I can tell you what I will do. Any correction, at least I will increase my exposure to the S&P 500 because the way it looks right now, every day we're creating new all-time highs, GDP expanding, companies with better results, 7 to 8% increase in EPS over the last earnings season. No reason why to feel that something is about to change. If it will change, we're meeting here every week, same time, same place to talk about it. Thank you very much for your viewership. And if you haven't subscribed yet, this would be a great point to do that. And of course, smash that like button. Till next time, Micha Stocks saying bye-bye. How do I stop it? Just kidding.